Are you a GEPF member worried about whether your pension will be used to fund the National Health Insurance or NHI? The South African government is moving forward with their NHI plans, but our public hospitals are far from being up to standard. In fact, some clinics in rural communities lack basic necessities like bandages. The task of bringing them up to par will undoubtedly require a vast amount of funding. Now consider this. The GEPF, Government Employees Pension Fund, is the biggest pension fund in Africa. It represents your hard-earned money, your financial security, and the future you've been diligently building. However, with the implementation of the NHI, questions are emerging from members. Will the GEPF be tapped to fund the NHI? Could this deplete your pension benefits? Are there unforeseen charges that could impact your financial stability? And what are the implications this could have on your future? If these questions have been gnawing at your peace of mind, you've landed on the right spot. This video is aimed to shine light on these critical issues and deliver the clarity that you need. Stay tuned as I delve into the important topic, simplifying the complex and providing you insights to help you understand the potential impact on NHI and your GEPF benefits. So we're heading over onto the iPad, again, just giving you some understanding firstly as to how GEPF operates. Critically important for you to be mindful that GEPF is a defined benefit fund. And all this means simply is that all the benefits are defined in terms of a formula. Now, what are those benefits? Everything that you're seeing on your GEPF statement, meaning your retirement benefits are all calculated, right? The income that you're going to get at retirement, the gratuity lump sum, it's all calculated. The benefits that you get in the event of you passing away, the benefits that you would get in the event of you having medical board, as well as your resignation benefit. Everything is calculated according to a formula, right? There are formulas behind everything, which then means what happens from an investment perspective. Because if all of this is calculated by way of a formula, why would you be affected by the markets? Because remember, the formula is just math, it's calculations. It's got nothing to do with the markets itself. Now, in order to understand that, we've got to delve behind the scenes to understand what GEPF is doing with this money, right? So now that you know, this is how it's done. It's all calculated according to formulas. It means that you shouldn't have the effect of the markets. In fact, I want you to see this for yourself. You notice if you had to request statements 1 month after the other, you should start to see your resignation value increasing. And why I'm using your resignation value is that value is a current value. It's as at the time that you're drawing the statement. Whereas your retirement figure, if you are below 60, it's a future calculated value. It's a value calculated to 60. If you're beyond 60, it's a value calculated to 65. So in order for you to confirm that it's on a formula not affected by the markets, get a few statements. You can request 3 statements, 1 month after the other, and observe your resignation value. You should start to see that the value is increasing. Now, let's start to have a look at what happens behind the scenes, right? So with this pool of capital that GEPF has, which is coming from member contributions and whatever's in the fund, this is the entire capital that's here. The money has to be invested. See? It's got to be invested. And if you head on to GEPF's website, you'll see they actually talk about this, where they explain exactly that the money is being invested and how a little bit of insights into the asset classes where the fund's going. So most of it's going into the JSE, into the stock exchange. So it's going into what we call equities. And because this money is going into equities, you know that the markets have this type of effect. So markets go like this. And that's the thing that's probably concerning you the most. But again, if you have to look at what I shared with you earlier, when it comes to GEPF members, because it's formula-based, you don't have that. You should start to see that your resignation value is growing nicely. And this is why you do the statements frequently. However, and here's the big but that I want to put in here, right? Is you want to start to be mindful of how GEPF is managing this money. Because ultimately, GEPF is responsible for all of the members in the fund. Simple way to understand this. Let's take a case where every single member has to opt to resign. So if every single government employee has to resign, in essence, GEPF has to make sure that the capital that they have inside here is enough to facilitate those payments, right? It's enough so that every single member can start receiving their money. Now, what happens in a case where it's not enough money? You also have to bear in mind that GEPF is also making payments through to pensioners, right? Because they are members who have opted to retire and these pensions are receiving a monthly income. So GEPF has to factor that they're still paying this income. So what happens in a case where GEPF is not investing well, like what we're mentioning now in terms of NHI? If GEPF has to inject money into NHI, it's unlikely that it's going to be able to see some type of return very quickly. The return might come over a period of time. See, now, if that's the case, if there's no immediate return, or in cases where there's a loss for an extended period, now it could put the fund at risk because it might not have enough to pay every single member if members opt to resign, as well as fund the pensioners. So in such an instance, GEPF can go back. Here's the big thing. They can go and change the formula. When they go and adjust the formula, this happened just a few months ago from when I shot this video, October 2022, 26th of October 2022, they issued members with a notice saying that they are adjusting the formula. And that change took effect on the 1st of November. So notice the timeline for that was extremely short. 26th of October 22 is when members were notified. And on the 1st of November 2022, the change came effect. So this was 5 days notice. So it's very short, and you agree it wouldn't have given you a chance to make any change. You couldn't submit your resignation. You were basically forced into this move. Now, when the formula change had taken place, there's some instances where members have lost well over R1 million just as a result of the formula change. So this is an instance that could happen if the funding within GEPF is not correct. So let's say GEPF injects a huge amount of funding to NHI, is not enough for them to create liquidity. They don't have enough sitting inside the pool, or there are other bad investments that are taking place. Then it puts the fund at jeopardy because now they might not have enough to pay everyone, in which case they can go back to change the formula. When they change the formula, this is when your resignation benefits can start to reduce significantly. That's the first part. The second part is if you are a pensioner. Now you notice what has taken place if you are a pensioner. GEPF can adjust the annual increase. Now the annual increase need only be 75% of inflation. It doesn't have to be the full. So in this case, GEPF, I'll use an example. Let's just say inflation is sitting at 10%. GEPF doesn't have to pay out inflation. They've protected themselves by saying they only have to pay 75%. So 75% is 7.5%. Now this is where this is a challenge for pensioners, because if everything around you is growing at 10% and your income is only increasing at 7.5%, it's going to reach a stage where you don't have enough. There's not enough money for you to get by. See, you might still be receiving your income, so the income is going to continuously be paid. However, that income is not in a position to buy you the same things that you were buying before. So this has been the impact for pensioners. Now we'll take it one step further in terms of what's happening going forward. The challenge within GEPF, there have been a lot of questionable investments that have taken place over the years. A lot of decisions have been taking place, and members are only getting to find this out very, very late. Now, if a lot of members are feeling unhappy with the fund or feeling insecure or don't trust GEPF, then you might have a number of members wanting to resign. See, and if you have this influx where a number of members are wanting to resign, GEPF could then go back in to adjust the formula again, which then starts to affect the pool for the remaining members that are sitting inside of the fund. Now, all of this information hasn't come to pass, well, at least at the time that I'm sharing the video with you. But the idea behind this video is to put you in a position where you can start to have a look at what your options are and also start to look at a backup plan. Now, what I want you to be mindful of is you don't want to go all out resignation, right? So it's not to say that if GEPF is going to be funding NHI, that you want to start taking all of your capital that's inside here and now you want to resign. Because if you're going to go into resignation without doing your proper planning, you still could lose money, right? You could lose a fortune of money in tax. You could lose money in terms of getting bad advice. You could lose money in terms of the markets, so investing. So there's still risks when it comes to resigning from GEPF. So here's the information that I want to pass on to you, because I want to give you some clarity on how you can move forward from this, right? If you're feeling like GEPF is not the right place for you and you don't trust the fund, then you want to start to look at what can you do as your alternative? What's your backup plan? Now, if resignation is your route, if that's your backup plan, please, I encourage you to start creating some type of testing at this moment. I'll explain to you how the testing works. I've shared this in previous videos as well. Let's just assume this is where we are now, and you are going to retire, or what you're aiming to resign at year X, right? That's at a certain point. Now, this period that I'm referring to here, from now to X, I call this the opportunity period, because this is the time that you can actually start to make some changes, right? It's where you can start to put certain things in place. So for example, where I mentioned to you earlier, if you are resigning, you want to make sure that you have tax plans in place. You want to avoid bad advice. You want to make sure markets, you've tested these things out. So imagine this is where you are now. This is when you want to resign. Imagine if you put something in place in order to create some tax saving now. See, doesn't that strengthen your position in resignation? If you put some things in place to build trust with a financial advisor or a specialist now, see, if you put something in place in order to see or to test investing now. So all this does, and if you monitor this on a regular basis, all this does is it helps to put you in a much stronger position at the time that you're actually aiming at resigning. Or alternatively, if you get to this point and you decide, hey, you want to retire, it's still okay because you're still in control of making the decision of whether you're aiming at retiring or resigning. But starting some type of alternate planning now, right? This could be looking at your existing policies, getting a specialist involved, having a look at what your options are, trying to create some type of pathway so you have a way forward. If you get that type of planning done now, it just puts you in a better position to make a more informed decision at a later stage. Again, either route, whether you're aiming at retiring or resigning. The challenge that I see for members is sometimes the decisions based on emotion, meaning there's highly stress in the workplace, or there's frustration for being stuck in a position for a long period. Or there's just a fear that GEPF could run out. See, a lack of trust within GEPF. And members tend to take a decision right here. So they haven't allowed themselves enough time to do testing. Now, if you want to make sure that you get yourself to a position that's extremely successful, or some of the testimonials that you might have seen where you want to pay the least amount in tax, where you want to start growing your capital, leave the legacy, get the best of both worlds in essence, you want to allow at least 3 years gap for you to do your testing, right? Again, either route, whether you're retiring or resigning, you want to allow 3 years gap. Now, let's say you did nothing now after watching the video. If you did nothing now, and let's just assume that NHI had come in, or GEPF had done some funding, or GEPF had done funding into other places that you get to find out at a later stage. Can you see the challenge here that I'm sharing with you is you cannot control GEPF. See, you can't control where they are investing. What you want to start looking at doing is start identifying the things that you can control. See, what are the things that you can control? And right now, there are things you can do in order to ensure that you're paying a less amount in tax. Right now, there are things you can do in order to ensure that you are investing more wisely. Right now, there are things that you can do in order to ensure that you're getting better advice. So on that note, if you're still stuck with making a decision on whether you're aiming at retiring or resigning, I welcome you to reach out so we can have a session together. Again, if you're a good fit, and then I'll guide you on what are the steps that you want to be mindful for before you make the plunge, right? So I hope the video has been insightful for you. Please, as a reminder, this is not something to alarm you. You should not be aiming at just resigning. Your route of retiring or resigning must be based on thorough planning, and you need to create, you've got to have time in order to ensure that this is created well. Good. So please post a comment below, share with me what your thoughts, what are your takeaways from this video? And if you've not already done so, I encourage you to subscribe to the video so that I'm able to produce this content, or you're able to get the content as soon as it's been produced. And I'll catch you in the next video.